why are these people still walking the streets? I don't care if it would take down the stock market, whatever has to happen.
When you stop and become a free thinker, the root of all evil is what? Money. So that's a good way to start.
Every normal person believes that children shouldn't be harmed. If everyone comes together and just says, we protest against this hidden information, the consequences of that could be a catastrophic financial collapse. Once you realize that everything just starts to fall like a house of cards, it would almost expose. It just needs one little pebble to be thrown and it would just come falling down.
The root of all evil is money, right? And Bitcoin changes that. They're not teaching you how to think. They're just teaching you what to think. And a lot of that is a fear-based mindset.
If you don't try new things and change, you never grow and you never experience, so that's not life. That's like a slow death, like Fiat.
Yeah. With you, I feel super comfortable. It's like getting my Bitcoin therapy out. And so thank you for that. How was your DMV?
It's a big mess. I had to, I actually got my license suspended. So I'm kind of a criminal right now. I got pulled over for having no insurance, and I do have insurance, but I didn't have my current insurance card with me. And I've gotten pulled over before where I didn't have the current insurance card.
Yeah.
So, but the cop was just kind of a jerk. So he gave me a ticket anyway, even though I had insurance, but I didn't think to log into the app. It was late at night. I just wanted to get home. I didn't think he was going to ticket me. So he gave me the ticket and then I had to go to court, but I totally forgot about the court date, so I didn't show up. And so they suspended my license and I didn't realize. I kept meaning to go back and like reschedule the court date, but it's so far away from me. And I kept thinking, okay, I'll go tomorrow or next week, and you can't do it over the phone. You have to go in person. So I just kept forgetting. So then I got pulled over the other day and the officer was super nice, but he's like, your license is suspended, and your plates and your everything. And he's like, do you know why? And I told him why it happened. And he's like, so if I go and check to see if there's a warrant for your arrest, is there going to be one? I'm like, I hope not. I'm like, and I was almost like secretly, like I was telling my husband about it and I was kind of laughing. I'm like, I almost got my first mugshot. I'm like, it would have been funny. And he's like,
gosh.
yeah. And he was like, that is not funny. Like, he was like, what the hell? I kept telling you to go to court, So my dad works at the DMV. So I've just been on the phone all day technically because he told me to come in early in the morning. He told me yesterday, come in and we'll straighten it out and just pay the fee. But then he wasn't able to do it. So I had to call the insurance company and have them do something because he said they would be able to reverse it, but they can't. So they gave me the Secretary of State's number. So I called them and they said they can't do it. I have to go to the court and show them I've had insurance this whole time. But my new court date's not until end of August. So I'm like, so I'm not supposed to drive till end of August now?
Jeez,
So
you
then
gotta
I was
love all these man-made laws, right?
I know, right? And it's all just, and it's two different counties. The first county I got pulled over in versus the second county. So I thought, okay,
Yeah.
at least if I get this court date out of the way, then it'll be cleared. But they're like, our friend works as a dispatcher for the police. And he's like, no, you still have to go to the original county's court. You have to still get that rescheduled because you're still going to get in trouble for that. And I'm like, why doesn't it all just work on one system? Why can't we just, why would I have to still go to that one if it got cleared through this one?
And the funny part is you had insurance the whole time.
I did. Yeah. Isn't this bullshit? Like, I'm just so annoyed because I've gotten pulled over not having my current card before, and they're just like, okay, we know, like, I'm like, I have insurance. It's just, this isn't but now I have it on my app, so it won't ever happen again. But it's just super annoying because now I was on the phone with the courthouse before I got on to ask them if I can come because the Secretary of State said it's up to them if I go early and just show them that I've had insurance the whole time and they might be able to clear it. But he's like, it's up to the court. So I tried to call to see if I could get through to somebody ahead of time before I drive like 45 minutes away.
Jeez.
And I ended up getting disconnected after waiting on hold forever. So I'm like, okay, that's fun.
Gosh.
So
Sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah,
we have people out here that are so sick of the laws that they'll put like notes on their cars and they'll drive around with no license plates, and they'll say like, I'm not doing this for work, it's just for travel, so I don't need a license, I don't need a plate, I don't need this. And they start recording themselves, and they end up usually getting arrested, but they're doing it based on the Constitution and based on their God-given rights and things like that are given to us in the Constitution. But these local municipal court type laws are just unfair and unconstitutional. But it's kind of like we have to,
Yeah,
obey them and go by them, or else they're gonna throw us in
I
jail.
know. And it's annoying because it's like they just want more money. It's like the two different counties, they just want to charge you the court fees to go to two different counties. It should be one system and make it simple. This person did have insurance the whole time. We cleared it through the system, but no, the system has to be two separate counties so they could both get paid. It's everything's all about money for the I just think, and somebody was telling me, one of our friends was like, well, just think about it next time you're driving on the road in the winter and you think that, all the money you spent on court fees. He's like, just think you paid for some of that, those roads getting fixed or something. I'm like, no, I paid for someone's pocket to get lined for about
Yeah,
90% of that
exactly.
money.
Yeah, those
Like, I
roads were
just,
all paid by the money printer.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I
I'm like,
found out that 99% of all the money the government spends is from the money printer. It's 1% roughly of what they take from us in taxes. And so why would they do that? And the president of El Salvador says it's because they want us to think we're contributing, but we're really not, and
yeah.
so it's
I
crazy.
remember I remember him saying that because it's like, what is the reason that you pay taxes? And it's crazy to think that that's the reason, just so we can believe that we're contributing something to, our towns and our roads and everything. They think we're good citizens for that because we help, but it's not much of our money that actually goes towards it. So it's like that's the kind of stuff that makes me laugh because it's like people are like, "Your this money is going towards your town." I'm like, "Yeah, no, probably not much of it."
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Very
it's the
annoying.
same people that are all for the cops, then they have something like this happen to them. They're like, this is horrible. I remember when
Mhm.
I was younger, I had tinted windows and loud music and crazy rims on my car, so I'd get pulled over all the time. And then they'd be like, oh, it smells like marijuana. Then they search my whole car. Then they usually find it, and they'd be like, well, I'm just gonna take this, right? And they'd write me a ticket, and the ticket wouldn't even be valid. They would just take the pot when I was younger. And so I'd go to court thinking I have this ticket, get in trouble, blah, blah. And they'd be like,
Yeah.
there's nothing in the system. And I'd be like, okay, though, yeah,
Wow.
keep coming back. And then if in a year it's not in the system, you're not, you're fine. So I'd have to come back to the court with my ticket a couple times during that year because I never got anything in the mail, all the way to the year expired. And I'd go in, and this happened 3 times. And because they just, I don't know, they just saw me and saw a young kid, and and would take advantage of that. And what's going on? They're like, well, you're lucky you don't have a ticket. Just don't make any noise about it. And then as I get older, I thought about it. I was like, wow, they were just because back then it was kind of more illegal. I was
Yeah.
still breaking the law because I thought, it's my moral obligation. It's like it's from God, whatever. But yeah, back when it was illegal, they would just take it and they would just do stupid things, give me tickets for loud music and tinted windows and all these things. And I'm like, I'm driving safe. I'm 41. I've still never been in an accident. And but yeah, it's just the state we live in, I guess.
That's so crazy to think that they didn't even have your case. That's
Oh, three
wild.
times, and then it pulled over again. I'm like, oh my God, I'm definitely gonna get it this time. I go back and nothing, nothing, and 3 times in a year. I don't know if I just was looking looking like a criminal in my car. And but yeah, and then I when I got a Prius, I never got pulled over ever. And then
That's
now I
crazy.
drive a Toyota Venza like a hybrid, never get pulled over.
Mhm.
So when I'm driving my nice car, I try to be careful because I know it's just like, oh, it looks fast. Let's just pull them over. It's aware.
Yeah, see, I have like a little Bitcoin reference on my license plate. I won't say what it is out loud, for
Uh-huh.
everybody, but I do have like a Bitcoin reference on my license plate. So I was making a joke that I'm like, probably the cop that pulled me over the first time that gave me a ticket, maybe he's like got a thing like against Bitcoin because he kind of got screwed over by it. He's mad he's sold or something. Who knows? Maybe
He
he,
went all in on
yeah,
XRP or something.
yeah. And he's like, screw this lady. I'm just gonna give her a ticket. And then the other cop that pulled me over that was super nice, when he told me I had to go to court the second time, uh, he wasn't he could have arrested me. He could have had my car towed, but he's like, "Just keep this in your glove box in case you get pulled over on the way home." He's like, "Just, you really shouldn't be driving." I'm like, "I know." And he just let me go, but my friend that works for, as a dispatcher, he was like, "You're so lucky. They could have totally towed your car and arrested you." And I'm like, maybe that guy was a Bitcoiner. He's like, "All right, cool. You're."
And I
I
think like
just I mean, it's not real, but, it's just
I
funny.
know. Well, a lot of cops are nice. Like it's when you start getting higher up and you get more power, right? You get more greed. you get that those things that Napoleon Hill was talking about, and what the devil starts to control your mind and the negative. I think then you start to get closer to the money printer, closer to the government, and you get more sucked in and more, maybe evil or just less humane. But when you're, a regular cop, a lot of them are really nice, awesome cops.
Oh, yeah, I have some friends that are cops and officers and detectives, and they're great people. They're super nice people. It's just there's like on my hairdresser, there's great hairdressers, there's terrible ones. There's every job has good and bad.
Hey, well, I was in car sales. Imagine what they say about car salesman people, right? Like, oh, all car salesmen are liars or this and that. And it
All
couldn't be
sorts.
farther from the truth because you have to be ethical, moral, tell the truth, and help people solve their problems in the best possible way. Or you're one, you won't earn their business. And two, even if you do earn their business, but in a negative, bad way, like lying or anything, they're never going to give you repeat business, never going to tell anybody. And if you piss off one person, they tell 10 people. If you make one person happy, you'll be lucky if they tell one person, right?
Yeah, and that
And
makes
so,
so much sense, but it's like people have the idea that the stereotype would be, "Oh, am I getting, you know, ripped off? Like, is this
mhm.
car even worth this much money, and am I getting screwed over?" But you're right, if even when you think about going to a resort on vacation and people say, "Oh, it's probably dangerous there, something might happen in that place where you're going," but if those people that even work at the resorts are supposed to take care of their customers and you do something like steal or hurt these people, then their business will tank and they'll have no job, So it goes in line with that. Like some of these stereotypes kind of don't make sense because it's why would you do that when it would hurt your business? Mm,
Yeah.
like, yeah, that
But there also are some car salesmen that have been in the business 6 months that will just
mm,
say anything to get a car deal because they're like, I'm probably not going to be here in 6 months. So,
true.
I would say it's like the 80-20 rule, right? 20% did 80% of the work and were really good, but 80% of them only did 20% of the work and probably weren't going to be there very long.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, they probably don't care about their career at that point.
Nope, they're usually young and say, I'm only going to be here for a little bit and try to get quick money. And it is very, I would say, it is kind of difficult because you have to have a learning curve because when you get into it, you're like trying to talk and sell. But in
Mm,
reality, you need to listen. The best
mhm.
salesmen are somebody that can listen, understand the needs, and then provide the best solution for those needs that makes sense. Then you're in their business. You're basically a
Yeah.
problem solver. Like you, someone comes in and they're like, I want to look like, this person or this. And then you have to talk some reality into them. You got to make them feel confident and sexy and wonderful, and then leave with a smile wanting to come back. It's a lot more than just cutting hair, right? And I think when people get in the government and they get these high positions, all that goes away. And it's just cold hearted, you know,
Well,
just black and
for
white.
me, and that's what I think we wanted to get into today was because of we wanted to touch on, some of the topics with the Epstein files because
Yeah,
of
yeah,
how people have been, back and forth about like why hasn't Trump released them, but also why didn't the Democrats release them when they had them? So it's the same, it's like one of those things we're going to discuss. But the people that, you know, are in power, it reminds me of all the you're in someone's pocket, somebody you owe someone a favor because they did something for you. Now you have to, it's like you scratch my back, I scratch
uh-huh.
yours. And it reminds me of that show Ozark. I don't know if you've ever watched Ozark, but it's
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I even brought it up in the past, but it makes me see a lot of that political stuff in a different lens and how you're not this person who's just like a good person. You're doing it because you're forced to. You're like blackmailed or, you don't have a choice. You have to either hide a secret or, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everyone's got to like protect each other when it comes to this because they're all helping each other, but then you're forced to do something bad. So we want to touch on those topics too. So we can I want to start off with your thoughts on the Epstein files and about the whole two-party system and why it's this uniparty because they both haven't released them and hear your thoughts on that and also about that whole Napoleon Hill idea where once people get to that level and they have power, you also it's like you're trading your soul, for
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're diving into what's current, right? The Epstein
yeah.
files that everybody's talking about. And then we can tie it with Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil, that you recently listened to the audio. So I'm very proud of you for that because that is, it's something that was released in the book was released in 1938. by Napoleon Hill. And it didn't actually get published until 2011 because it was so controversial, that he was kind of worried what it would do to his family and what it would do to the Napoleon Hill Foundation. So he passed away in 1970 and it was released in 2011. I heard it because I got into Bitcoin in 2013. I probably heard it in 2015. And it pierced my soul with the knowledge. And once I started going down, listening and more of Napoleon Hill's knowledge and his readings, it turns out he was one of the first people to teach people how to sell cars. Because before, around that time period, when they were having cars come out, they didn't need to sell them. They had no salespeople. They were just taking orders on their Cadillacs and Fords. But then when Toyota and the Japanese type model started coming in, they were much better, and so people stopped buying Cadillacs and stopped buying Fords. So the owner of Cadillac came to Napoleon Hill and said, "Hey, you're so good at, manifesting and understanding what people want," because that's all Napoleon Hill did was interview the most successful people out there. Said, "How can you help us as huge corporations sell these cars?" So he went in, looked at it, and said, "These people have no customer service, no sales skills." He literally taught Americans how to sell cars in the car business, in the industry. And then here I am, one of the leaders of my industry, my own business, you know, going, holy cow, I'm right on this plane of energy and knowledge and absorbing it so much. And then all of a sudden he's the one that started the selling of the cars and I'm in the business. It was just like so harmonious and so amazing. I was like, felt like it was just the perfect information for me at that time. And it ties into a lot of things that they don't teach you in school, right? Like when they're teaching you in school, they're teaching you, teaching you, teaching you, but they're not teaching you how to think, right? They're just teaching you what to think. And a lot of that is a fear-based mindset. Like if you don't work, if you don't do this, if you don't pay your taxes, if you don't, do all these steps, go to school for this many years, which is kind of like indoctrination, then you're not going to be successful. You're not going to do this. And in reality, if you can help people solve their problems and think on how to do that, you can be successful. You don't even have to go to school.
So it's more like a fear is used for control type
Yes, with
idea.
religion, with the governments, with everything. It really goes into in that audiobook on how to outwit the devil. It goes in on how to take control of your mind and get it back because then you can see all these fear-based concepts for what they are. And then you see these leaders and where they're at, and you're like, maybe they did get there because the devil bribed them, right? And before we get into the
Even if
Epstein
people
files,
don't even if people don't like believe in like the devil per se, it's also like you believe in this, force of greed and force of, the easy way out or, not taking the hard path, but just finding a way to like sneak around the truth and get away with it. It's like lies and like deceit, and it's all those ideas that the devil's kind of based around. It's like that, and then you get to where you're going because you either hurt other people or you just sweep things under the rug. So it's like all things that are not good things to do is kind of that whole idea as well. So it's like even if you're not specifically like that person who wants to hear you know about actual religion, but it's like it's literally human nature, at the same time. So
yeah, and I'd like to point out one thing that I learned from Napoleon Hill is that the devil is not something with horns, a forked tongue, and a tail, right? The devil lives in the minds of men, right? Because we're the most powerful thing right now on earth, and he can use us to do these bad things, create more negativity, right? So on an electron, there's a positive and a negative, right? The devil's just the negative part of that neutron, electron, of infinite intelligence. There has to be the good, which we'd call God, and the bad, which people call the devil. When you are a free thinker, and you learn this from Napoleon Hill, and a lot of Bitcoiners are free thinkers, thus we're more successful and self-sovereign than regular people that aren't free thinkers, right? So to get to this level, you just have to understand that you need to see the negative side and take what you want from it to get to where you want, but do not let the negative side consume you because everybody has needs, right? But you have to keep those needs in balance, right? And
Yeah.
if, like, here's a good example. BitBoy, right? We all know BitBoy. He was very, very famous years ago. He was like one of the number one YouTubers for Bitcoin, right? Where's he at right now? I think he's in a mental institution. Why? Because he was drifting, right? With maybe the fame, the money, the drugs, left his family, all these things, right? And would we say that the devil came down and did that to him? No. The devil in his mind let him drift, not be the real thinker that we all need to be. And then when you're not thinking straight, you drift, and now look where he's at, right? So that's a perfect example of how this negativeness, this negative energy can take you over if you're not a free thinker and have a definite purpose. And the definite purpose can't hurt other people as well.
The thing that it's also that negativity, that negative force, it's like you said, like part of physics. It's also negative and positive, and there's yin and yang, and there's
Mhm.
pain, and then there's growth. Like you don't have one thing without the others. This exists whether you like it or not. It's here, it's in the world. So you have to, like you said, don't let yourself drift to that.
Yeah.
You have
Well,
to let yourself overcome that and just choose which of the, because it's a choice. You could let that fear take over and control you, or you can be a different thinker. You can see the root cause of problems. You can try to escape it and just keep your soul, keep your keep your goodness about you and choose which side you want to, be on. But I think that whole bit boy thing, he was greedy. It's like you get taken over by greed and fame and showing off, and seems like he was being boastful, and he got, I don't know if he did anything specifically or just traded, you know, crypto a lot, but again, Bitcoin is different. So I think a lot of people confuse that. Like I have a lot of people lately, they talk to me and they know that I'm doing the podcast and they're like, "Oh, you're the crypto girl." And I'm just kind of like, do I say it? Do I just say I'm the Bitcoin girl? Because I'm not
yeah,
crypto.
I try to tell people all the time there's no second best. Bitcoin is
Yeah.
different than crypto.
I'm not a bit, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of taints the Bitcoin what it really is, I would
Yeah,
say.
because I'm not like BitBoy. I don't wanna be like, I'm having a YouTube channel like he did, and I'm promoting crypto, because I'm not, so I just
No,
wanna,
that's why I really wanted to do this series with you because I can tell by talking with you when you meet somebody else that understands Bitcoin, right? They're against war, they're for freedom. You basically are a free thinker, and then you come to your own terms of, okay, this is the best thing that us
Mhm.
humans have had for a long time that's going to get us away from the negative mindset that 98% of people have that you find out by Napoleon Hill Outwitting the Devil. And then you're like, wow, why is there around 2% of the people that are happy and successful and everything? It's because they that we are energy, and so thus we're always giving off energy and we're always thinking. So try not thinking, right? You're always thinking positive or negative. You're thinking in fear or you're thinking of excitement, right? Or purpose. So when I go scuba diving and go to the bottom of the ocean to shoot big fish, right? I have that fear when I'm driving there, like, oh my God, I'm leaving my family, I'm going to the bottom of the ocean where the great whites are, I'm going in their kitchen to take these huge fish, and I'm underwater at 60 feet, and all these things are going in my head. And then I'm like, I don't want to think about that. I want to think about the camaraderie I'm going to have with my buddies, the all the energy I'm going to absorb from the ocean, how I'm going to feel after, the hunting experience, the great food I'm going to get. Every time's an experience. And then when I'm driving home, I feel so euphoric and wonderful and awesome. I'm like, I'm so glad I did that. But imagine 98% of people go, why would I ever go to the bottom of the freezing cold ocean where I can barely see and try to, get these fish? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you just think of all the reasons why you shouldn't, and you let yourself drift. Like, you're letting it I love that you are, because that's kinda how my mind works too. There's a lot of things that scare me, and you can let yourself get sucked in, but you just have to be like, "Yeah, I don't feel like thinking about that right now. I'm just gonna think about the positive parts or the things that I
Yeah.
think will make me happy about it." Because you could let yourself get, like, taken over by one side or the other, so You just if you don't try new things and change, you never grow and you never experience, so that's not life, that's death. That's like a slow death, like Fiat.
Yeah,
So
it is. And Bitcoin is amazing. We all know what it is. And a lot of people listening to this, know what Bitcoin is, right?
yeah.
But and what it really but once you understand, like for me, I've been in it for so long that once it gives you the freedom that we're all looking for, right? Once you realize I don't have to ever work again, I don't have to ever listen to anybody again, right? Then you start to go, who am I, right? What do I want, right? And then
And
it's a scary.
I wanna bring up that fact that, like, because you got into it as early as you did, and that's possible for you, people might be thinking, "Well, that happened with him, but it's not possible for me." But people have to realize that it is possible because there's 8 billion people in the world, and if you do listen and you do see and learn about Bitcoin, understand why it's so transformative, there's only about 2 million coins left on exchanges. There's 8 billion people in the world. So even if you get to point one Bitcoin, you're going to be one of the few in the world that has that much. And the value will keep going up as long as money is printed, which it will be. So it's not it's not like you missed the boat. It's not like, people can't be like you or people can't have freedom with their life to choose to, you know, do what they love, and chase their passion and not feel like they're a slave to their job. It's possible for anyone who listens, so
Yeah,
I just
like
wanted
for
to.
instance, COVID, right? You can live in that fear-based mindset, put a mask on, which is less oxygen. Don't go out in the sun, which is less vitamin D. Don't talk to people. Now you're more depressed. And that is what should be what people are doing because that's what the media says. In reality, you should be breathing oxygen, going out there, eating good food, having a good time. And if you get sick, maybe, rest or whatever. But that mindset is what gets people sick. Like if you think you're going to get sick, and you think you're going to get a certain disease, you usually get it. Napoleon Hill said that he met somebody when he was younger that kept talking about, I'm gonna get old. I'm gonna have breast cancer. My mom had, I'm gonna have it. And she never had it. And he would listen. And this lady would always talk in terms of illness and sickness. Like, oh, I just feel, and she'd go to the doctor. Doctor, said she was fine. And this family friend that he would watch all of a sudden kept saying it until she gave herself the illness, right? And she was totally fine. And then she went through everything, ended up passing away. And he saw that and said, wow, she manifested the illness. And he was a free thinker because he would go interview the most richest people around the world and ask them how they got there, right? And see what abilities, how they were a free thinker and how they got there. And then the other people that would focus on whatever they wanted to focus on usually got that. So, for instance, for myself, when I got into Bitcoin, listening to Max Kaiser say, it could be this, it could be this, it could be this, right? Nobody knew, right? But I believed, and I said, you know what? There is that possibility. Having that belief, right? And being a free thinker, thinking, you know what? This doesn't make sense is what got me to where I'm at now. And so when we open this door for people and say, look, you can think in terms of what the government and what these elites or pedophiles or, weird people want, or you can think in terms of universal law, basic math, and get back to base reality on this Bitcoin thing. And then also, raise your consciousness at the same time to where it just naturally gets you to the state where I'm at naturally. I didn't, but I also had to manifest it and have um, that positivity because I had a lot of not I not a lot, but I had the devil knocking and saying, "Hey, you should sell it. What if it goes down, right? Or you should just sell it all and buy a house. You should do this. You should do that." I had so much fear. You need to sell before you lose it, or this and that. And that was when Bitcoin was under 20K, right? But
Well, that's why
luckily,
traders get so messed up. That's why BitBoy is how he is, because it's like he's giving people financial advice, telling them when they should sell or hold, and everyone blames him for their destruction afterwards, and he gets destroyed himself because you play mind games with yourself. You get let greed take
yeah.
over. You think it's going to keep going higher, or you know what I mean. So you play these mind games, and then you get screwed over because you're trying to trade sometimes, but
Well, I was gonna say we're all on this Bitcoin level to get financial freedom. When you get closer to that financial freedom, you're gonna come to a crossroads. Where am I?
It was
Can you
breaking
see me
up a
okay?
little bit, but I think it's a little blurry. It's starting to come back. Just maybe wait a second till it. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, so, um, well, here's a good example. With great power comes great responsibility. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
And we're all trying to get great power with Bitcoin. As soon as you get financial freedom, then you have to have the knowledge to keep it. You have to have the knowledge to have peace of mind, right? So as soon as I got to where I thought, you know what, this Bitcoin thing really could take off, and this is still under 20K. I had to gain more knowledge with regards to Napoleon Hill, and he was the best avenue that I felt was the most correct knowledge that aligned with me at the time, and still to this day is just the best knowledge with base reality I could think of, right? And those go hand in hand to make you a better, stronger person to be able to keep your Bitcoin, keep
Yeah.
your family, and keep your peace of mind. Because if you have all the money in the world, what does it matter if you don't have peace of mind, right? And some of the richest, most successful people that Napoleon Hill interviewed, billions and millions of dollars, a lot of them didn't have peace of mind. They had to sacrifice their families for it, their conscience, their morals, and when the dust settles, they were drifters even at the top, right? And so that's why I think it's so important to have this knowledge and talk about some Napoleon Hill with the most important thing in our existence now, Bitcoin. So you have that spiritual knowledge and the Bitcoin kind of comes together perfectly.
Even if you were thinking about how about what you were talking about earlier about manifesting illnesses, when you have that drifting and you go, you do something to gain power because of fear, you're also hurting yourself. And when you talked about Bitcoin changing you in our first episode, I have an episode coming up with Dr. Satoshi, and his interview is really cool too because he's a doctor and he talks about stuff that we hear about where your anxiety can raise cortisol levels in your body, and stress in your body can cause all sorts of sicknesses.
Mhm,
So you literally are growing illnesses in your body. You're making yourself sick by being scared or fearful or maybe guilty for something you did
mhm.
that maybe as a paid off politician or somebody in power that you think you have to do something because you're forced to, you have fears, you don't have peace of mind that this thing won't come out and you keep trying to cover it up and you're trying to so all these things that you do to try to stay where you are and stay on top is like a fight or flight, like constant fight or flight mode in your body, and your body is creating high levels of cortisol, which stress can cause you to have all sorts of illnesses. And then when you get Bitcoin and you have that peace of mind, you know that no one can confiscate it from you. You have this also hope for the future. You don't have to play these with where should I put my money? You just it's a you understand what this is, you know how it grows and you understand why. So it's peaceful and you feel like when you have this sort of peace in your body, it does change you because you release that stress and anxiety and you can like cure yourself in a way because when you're lowering your cortisol levels, you become healthy. So it's like weird how like when you said that Bitcoin changes you, that's kind of from a doctor standpoint, that's kind of how it changes you because
Exactly.
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I got a new one for you, a good one, right? So, so before Bitcoin, right? I was part of the human race, right? Hear me out. I was part of the human race, a race to get more money, right? A race to try to buy more things, a race to be away from the people I love, to try to get more things because I was in a fear-based mindset. I'm always chasing something, right? I was like spinning my wheels trying to go somewhere. After being in Bitcoin for 12 years, I can tell you that I'm no longer part of that human race. I'm in part of humankind, right? I'm kinder to myself. I'm kinder to my family. I'm kinder to my neighbors, right? So it's like, do you want to be a part of something that you're racing toward and you're never going to get there? Or do you want to just be kind again, right? And Bitcoin, it's not just a money, it's a mindset to let you think, well, now I can be kinder, right? Because if you have an abundance like now I do, I can then give more, give my time to the people on X in the community. I can give my time to better myself. mentally and physically and things like that. And so Bitcoin, that's why it's so important, and that's why we're doing this, is it's not just an investment. It's disguised as an investment, but collectively as like humankind, we're coming together saying we like this better than the old system because the old system must be controlled by the devil, the negative side, right? And Bitcoin has to be controlled by God, infinite intelligence, the good side, because look what it's doing to yourself, to me, to everybody else that gets on board that understands it, not just buys it. Because when you buy it, like an investment, there's people that buy stocks, that buy altcoins, buy real estate. It can help you. But I think Bitcoin does it on a whole nother level because then you realize, especially if you're into Bitcoin and you understand Bitcoin, you would need and I recommend listen to Outwitting the Devil because it ties it all together, in my
Right.
opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why, your time is your most valuable resource, and that's why you see it so much in the Bitcoin community that people give their time to educate other people, to spread awareness because they want others to have freedom as well.
Yeah,
We're doing it because we want you to also for people to get this before they have to pay a huge price for it, so it's like we're just trying to share the word, but we do give our time because we care for humankind, we care
yeah.
for other people. It's true when you're in the um fiat system, you are in the race. It does feel like a human race, and the end goal keeps moving from you. You keep having to run because you never reach the finish line. You are always feeling like you're racing. You're always in fight or flight. So, yeah, that's a really great point. It does feel like you're completely on a different you have a different purpose.
Yeah,
Your
we're in a
purpose
whole
isn't to
different
raise money.
sandbox than the old sandbox with the big bully in it that nobody can beat, right? And the bully is probably the devil, the negative side, because it controls the greed, the money, the power, a lot of things that normal people go, I don't agree with that. But that's the system we're in. And the thing is, like, when there's even like ICE or cops or people that have power, a lot of them we were talking about earlier that are good, but when you start getting more power and going up, getting closer to that money printer, sometimes they seem to be more evil, right? Bitcoin, they're all going to be wanting to be paid in Bitcoin in the future, right? Let's fast forward 20 years, 30 years. They're not going to be wanting to be paid in the money printer dead fiat. They're going to be wanting to be paid Bitcoin. And how are they going to get that Bitcoin? Through people like me and you that have Bitcoin, right? So, the power that we don't have now will be coming. Like I said, power, responsibility. And so a lot of people are still in that rat race, but have Bitcoin. They're trying to get to where I was trying to get just 10 years ago, same thing. And they probably don't have the extra time and energy to absorb a lot of this knowledge that I got to because of the freedom that Bitcoin gave me and the responsibility. So it's goes hand in hand to say, well, look, not only we're throwing out a life raft, Noah's Ark, to get on this Bitcoin raft, right, and save people, but we're also saying, well, look, this is how important it is because when you get into it for a certain amount of time, you have to make a choice. You have to get this knowledge, or you're going to be like BitBoy. He had a lot more Bitcoin and a lot more crypto than a lot of us, and look where he's at right now. And so yeah, thank you for this because I get to get my moral obligation out and say, digest everything that I feel. So when Bitcoin is millions and millions of dollars, I could say, look what I did. I tried to save people.
You
And then
tried, yeah.
also when people ask, me now, a lot of people know I'm all about Bitcoin. I can then send them your videos and say, well, look, I don't need to talk about it for 5 hours or 10 hours. Here's some episodes, go through them. And I spent over 5,000 hours easily studying and using Bitcoin over the last
Well, that's why
10, 12
making these
years.
videos it's true that making these videos is important, so all the ideas that we have are just out there for people to find if they choose to find it because, that's what they do for training, like, I remember even for work, my husband would tell me when I hire new people, I'm like, "Oh, I have to go through and train these people one at a time, show them what to do," and he's like, "Why don't you just make a video just to show people?" So you don't have to talk, you could be like, "Watch this video, this is how you do it," and save your time that way.
Mhm.
Because yes, your time is valuable, but if people choose to listen, they will listen and they'll learn something and choose to do their own research afterwards. But you could put it out there. you're doing your duty, you're doing your good deed, you're feeling like you're doing something because your voice is, out in the universe, for
Yeah.
whoever chooses to come across it. And it feels good to do that because otherwise you're like, I just like didn't try. I tried to talk to people, but yes, you're in real life, you're just feeling like you're repeating yourself all day, trying to say the same, big ideas that you have. But at least now you have them in on a place online where people can go through and learn. It's like a resource, like how somebody would have training tools for somebody. So it's super important, and it's really good that I think that we're doing this too, and any of the guests we have on any podcast. It's
Yeah,
great for
and
people.
if you give good energy out, you get good energy back. So, I mean, call me greedy, but I'm trying to give as much good energy as possible. Why? Because I want to receive, and I deserve to receive all the good energy out there because, and that's part of being a free thinker is understanding that is it's all energy, right? And when you have your positive Bitcoin energy, my positive Bitcoin energy, we come together, it amplifies 10, 100 times, right?
Yeah,
I did want to get my knowledge out there, but I just didn't want to talk about it by myself. I
I
just
know.
didn't feel like, it's just no way. With you, feel super comfortable. It's like getting my Bitcoin therapy out. And so thank you for that. Well, let's enjoy this time and have this positive energy, positive experience, and grow like a fruitful garden should and be plentiful, right? That's what we should do. And I think Bitcoin lets you see because I mean, I was a drifter, right? I was just working, hustling, trying to, make more money, buy more things. I was a drifter. Bitcoin helps you get on path to make you realize, well, what if you can get a lot of your power and time back, right? And then what? Do you end up like BitBoy or do you end up like somebody like Max Kaiser or Anthony Pomplianos or somebody that, has like JV over in Puerto Rico where you're just giving, you're doing good and you're still confident and you're still positive, right? Or do you
Well,
go the negative route?
yeah, exactly. You have to make your choice in that. And then also another thing was the purpose that you mentioned. If you don't have purpose, fall easily to that drifting, but Bitcoin gives you purpose. Like even if you feel like you're retired at a young age, having Bitcoin early, you have purpose because you want to, help others. You have a purpose, you have a mission. So there's always something that in the Bitcoin world you feel like you're energized by it.
Mhm.
Again, you want to talk to others and you want to help them and show them the truth. But I had this idea and thought that it reminded me of that it would be just kind of cool to bring up was how again there's not that much bitcoin left and we want even if you get a small amount it really helps because I was reminded of bitcoin being this almost like a tree of life because the fruit that that tree bears the bitcoin that it mines them that you could save and you can hold on to this fruit. It reminds me of a post that I made recently because I had tried my first date and the date was I didn't really realize what fruit the date comes from. I'm like, what is a date actually? I'm like, is it because it's not a plum? So then I looked it up and it was a tree that comes from the Middle East and it's a tree that they called the tree of life. And it was called that because in the middle of a desert where there was like, trees shouldn't grow and there shouldn't be life, this tree would be there and it would have fruit on it and people would be able to take the dates or whatever they're called before they turn into dates when they're old. But you would be able to take this fruit that's high in, density with like nutrients and enough sugar to sustain you. So you let these things dry out in the sun. You could take them with you for your travels through the
Okay.
desert and be able to sustain yourself and live through these harsh environments. So it reminds me of Bitcoin in a way because, it's not much. It's not like a huge bushel of food, but it's a little date that you can
Hmm.
preserve and save, and it can give you nourishment through this desert climate. Because right now we're in this environment, it feels like you are, yes, in this human race. You're trying to like make it out of here and your fiat is getting you nowhere. So it feels like it's like you're in the desert and your food is just turning to dust right in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
It's
just
crazy
disintegrating.
that there's so many starving people out there when you can literally just plant seed and grow your food. I literally will never starve because I have taught myself, or people taught me, and I've learned how to go to the ocean and just get your fish, right? It's just an amazing thing when you realize, you're like, wait a minute, I don't need to even go to the store. I can grow my own food. there's water everywhere. If you want salt, you can scoop out a big bucket of salt water and let it dry out, and there's your salt. You can go hunting and get meat. You can then dry out the fish, and I'm making jerky so I can then preserve it. It's amazing. And then other people are like, oh, I gotta work and be away from my family to buy a fish that was farmed, that's a sick, poor fish that didn't get to experience what Mother Nature designed, and then they're eating sick food. And it the Bitcoin and the experience that I had before Bitcoin is one that lets you like how I said, the human race versus the humankind. It really lets you put the brakes on and relax and think. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, the world is so plentiful, right? And people are out there dying or starving when they can just think, grow, come together, and not have to worry about the fear and the oppression and that it comes from the top, right? Whether it's religion,
Yeah,
school, whether it's the government, whether it's the money. All these things are just putting, the boot on our necks, basically.
and I
And
think that's
Bitcoin
really,
lifts it off and lets you breathe and lets you come
yeah.
back to reality and get, close with Mother Nature again and get this real knowledge that they don't teach in school. When I learned that knowledge from Napoleon Hill, and there's so much good stuff on him, I was kind of like shocked that one, they didn't teach any of this in school. But I went, to San Jose State and graduated with a college degree, still nothing. Crickets. And this is 10 times more important than what I learned in school because you can go online and learn anything, right? YouTube.
Did you learn about Napoleon Hill before or after you found Bitcoin? Was it during?
I got into the knowledge after Bitcoin because
Okay.
before I thought I knew everything. I wanted to work. I was in that race of trying to get more things. I didn't have money, but I had a nice car. I had this, I had that. I was just racing to get the next thing. I didn't think, I'm like, oh, things will work out in the future. I don't know how I'm going to get a house. I don't know how I'm going to get a super nice car. It'll just work itself out. Um, and then when I got to Bitcoin and it started like the big bull run in like 2017, it really like hit me like, okay, do I sell it all and try to, go back to the race? Or is this something that really has the power of what Max Kaiser was saying? I had to do more soul searching and learning. So of course I loved studying Bitcoin and learning about that ever since I got, found it. But then I started adding in that knowledge with Napoleon Hill. I started just going online and looking for knowledge, right? Tony Robbins. You know Tony Robbins? Everybody heard of him? He learned from Napoleon Hill. He doesn't say that because he goes out there and he spills his knowledge and he wants money for it, right? Subscribe, learn, get my books, and then he kind of gets money. But Tony Robbins said he learned almost all the stuff, a lot of it was credited to Napoleon Hill. And so Napoleon Hill is it's something that a lot of people I didn't know about, nobody really knows about. And then when you listen to him, you're like, he's back in the 1900s or whatever, 1930, 40, 50. That's when he was very big and popular back then. Why would I want to listen to somebody back then? It's not relevant now, right? Well, that's why I think it's still out there because you can't stop all those books and all the knowledge and all the stuff he already put out there. But somebody that pops up right now that tries it, silence him. Social
Right.
media, silence, like look at Andrew Tate tries to, get guys to be more masculine, silent, just little things. And so, yeah, I mean, I did find it after Bitcoin, and it was probably because of Bitcoin, because if I didn't have Bitcoin, I wouldn't have the time and that extra power and energy to even want to go look for it.
Hmm.
And and then I'm so glad I did because it helped me throughout my life better than all the school, all the relationships, all the other knowledge I've gained from anybody else, any mentor I thought was a mentor. None of them had that knowledge. And I really drew to it. So I not only listened to it, but I listened to it many times. I wrote it down. I started teaching my friends and family, anybody that would listen about it, because when you teach it, or you can talk about it like I am now, you understand it and you know it, right? If you just listen to it once or twice, it's very difficult to grasp it. And I thought it was so powerful that I listened to it all the time. Uh, every once in a while, when I feel like there's nothing else on YouTube to watch, Witting the Devil, pop it up, and I always find something new because it's like a
Yeah.
2, 3 hour audio, every time something new that helps me. And so, for people that are driving to work, back to work, have that little bit of window, whether it's the peace of mind, pop on that and it'll change your world because you'll be like, holy cow, all these negative thoughts, all these fears, everything. It's just because I'm not taking control of the gifts that I was given at birth to
Mhm.
think, to use everything that Mother Nature gave you. All the media, all the governments, everything kind of takes that away and says, this is what you should think. This is what you should do, right? You should be a Democrat or a Republican. When in reality, they're the same thing. And I went Democrat, I went Republican, and then just recently, I said I'm giving up on both of them, especially with the Epstein thing and other things with the ICE raids and tariffs and bombs and being so close with crazy, religious states and things. I said, you know what? I don't would not want to categorize myself as a free thinker and a Bitcoiner into a Republican narrow slit of thinking that how many people in the United States are already in one of those categories, right? So
Yeah,
all
because
I can do is to open up to this other one that's 10 times better. Well, go ahead.
I still can't get over how people from both sides argue about that because it doesn't make sense when you think about it. It's so obvious that people think Trump hasn't released the files because he's in them. But then when the Democrats had the Epstein files, they could have gotten Trump if they released them if he was supposedly on them. But they also had people on the Epstein files too, because there's people from both sides that don't want to be taken down. So they both had probably the power to get this to be seen, but they haven't yet. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason why they're covering their asses and they're trying not to expose any of themselves, whether it could take down their enemy or not. They know that they're all so
They're
many
all
of them are
connected.
involved in this. So it's like you can't people need to stop blaming each other and saying, "Well, he did this, they did that." It's like bottom line, whether you think who's wrong, there's sickos on both sides that have done evil things that shouldn't be walking the streets and allowed to live their best life right now and keep their secrets and their horrors covered up. And they're still able to do that because this system promotes bribery and cover-ups and all
Mhm.
this shit, and we're not about that. When we're about Bitcoin, we're not about either of that. I don't know what's going on, but why not release it fully? Obviously people and then the whole story of there wasn't actually any Epstein files, and they have that picture of them holding up, the
Big
the
old book.
files. Yeah, and it's like, what the stupidest picture in history if they're, like, showing off that they have the files and then
Yeah.
now there's no files. So it just none of it makes sense, and it's super obvious to know that both sides are wrong and both sides have people that they're covering for, you know?
Mhm.
So whether it would take down their enemy, they think the other side's the enemy, they can't do it because they're stuck. It's like a rock and a hard place, like, so they just try to act like it's not even there anymore, and it's like, we know it is. Ghislaine Maxwell's still in jail for a reason because otherwise, why is she in jail? It's just all
Yeah, and
crazy.
a recent thing that happened that remember how I said the devil isn't a forked tongue and person or thing with a tail. It lives in the minds of men, right? If somebody wants to know exactly what that devil looks like, there's a picture of a French politician that recently just got in big trouble for having a pedophile ring. The kids were as young as 6 months, and he got the kids from the state by saying, let me, orphans, let me be their guiding parent, their guardian. This was, and so if you want to see what evil the devil looks like, it looks like a well-dressed, skinny, far left white guy, French guy, in politician that's connected with all the other politicians that just had this happen. So you can go right to Grok and say, who's the French politician that just got in trouble for this, blah, blah, blah. It'll pop up and you'll see his face. That is the face of pure evil, the devil in his
It's like
mind, in the flesh. It doesn't get any worse than that, right?
anyone who
And in
steals innocence and hurts children is the devil. Like, you literally are evil. You hear all sorts of this stuff, and you're just like, when people start to just like care about any other thing and they start to argue with each other, it's like, why are these people still walking the streets? Like, why
yeah,
is that still okay? That shouldn't be okay. I don't care if it would take down the stock market or make, everything go crazy because these people are exposed. Whatever has to happen, these people should
I
be
think
exposed.
it's because they're part of the 98% that drift, right? You could find somebody that doesn't have a lot of money, but has a good soul, that's a good person that just helps people, that's always fun to be around, that's wonderful. You don't need to have Bitcoin or money to have this, right? But 98% of people are just drifters, which means if you lead them with a little green dollar bill, they'll follow it, even if it's bad, right? And then when they keep following, keep drifting, now they can have their mind controlled by this negative entity that people call the devil. For instance, there's things as mind control or hypnosis, right? The hypnosis is just contacting the subconscious part of the mind and telling it what to do. If a person can hypnotize another person, have them act like a dog or this and that, imagine how powerful the devil is when it controls half of everything, the negative side, and it controls 98% of people and lives in their minds. Imagine once that person's a drifter and doing drugs or indulges in all these things, they can be hypnotized by the devil just like that.
Well,
They end up
imagine.
in a mental institution like Bitboy, or they end up doing something so horrible like this French person because they're just drift to that. When you stop and become a free thinker, adopt Bitcoin, learn this knowledge, you'd be like, that is so evil. Nobody would ever think of even doing it. Let's stop everybody that's even thinking of it.
Right.
And one of the best ways to stop it is the root of all evil is what? Money, I
Yeah.
would say, right? And so that's a good way to start, I would say.
Yeah, and also just, you know, I think that that would be it just shows that when you're together on something and when you all believe in something, I think every normal person believes that children shouldn't be harmed. And I think that if everyone were to stop protesting for their own separate ideals and just come together and all protest against the fact that this is being hidden and it's a cover up, and if everyone comes together and just says, we need this to come out, we don't care about whatever the reason you're covering it up, we protest against this hidden information. That would be something where everybody should come together on, because it is wrong, and it shouldn't be these people shouldn't be allowed to continue what they're doing, and the consequences of that could be a catastrophic financial collapse, because so many of these
War and
people.
dropping bombs.
Yeah, it could be something like that, but again, that would also lead to a safe haven like Bitcoin, because once you realize that everything just starts to fall like a house of cards, it would almost expose that it just needs one little, what I mean, pebble to be thrown at that house of cards, and it would just come falling down. So
Well,
it's
that's
like
why I
if
think
people were to
Bitcoin is
stand
so
together.
important because if the root of all money or the root of all evil is money, right? And Bitcoin changes that. It gives people a fair playing field where they can think for themselves, right? And, you know, understand that they have that personal responsibility and then they have the self mastery. You master self, you can master the world, right? Only 2% or less of people know that, understand it, and use it. When you have definite of purpose or you exit the matrix, then the negative thinking is very hard to get you. But when you're trapped in that human race, it's always there. It's knocking on the door. And so when you have that energy where it's kind of fear and never enough and always racing, that's how the devil can control you. When you
Yeah.
realize that, there's a different way to think and you have that purpose and you're not hurting other people in that purpose, then it's very difficult for any negativeness or the devil to access any part of your mind. And here's another thing I learned with Napoleon Hill. When you get two people that are free thinkers, that have a definite purpose and come together, like I was talking about that mastermind alliance, it's almost impossible for the devil to access and get in their minds and have them become a drifter. So when you get a spiritual relationship, a harmonious relationship like a marriage or a group of people that sign the Declaration of Independence, you get that together, that is so powerful. That is why I think the government up top don't want that, right? And Bitcoin brings us all together spiritually, on that, fair playing field backed by math, all these things where then we can start to not let that devil in because we're like, why would we? We have something that gives us hope, that gives us, these positive feelings and all these things where you're like, why would I go back to the negative, right? But you need to understand this because if not, you could end up like BitBoy even when you have Bitcoin, right? When you understand Bitcoin, you don't start shilling other coins and other things because those things are going to bring you to that definite of purpose, right? That's going to get you away from the devil because those other things most likely are going to be that race to your downfall.
Plus, those other things are controlled by those types of forces.
Yeah.
Those other things
And
are also
they
controlled
have
by
somebody that's not Satoshi.
yeah, because Satoshi disappeared, the network grew on its own, it's decentralized, no one can control it or change the rules, and every other coin has someone that can control it just like every government, and anyone can change the rules tomorrow. So it's literally like not you are allowing those forces to still be part of what you think success looks like in the future. So you don't want to have something that you store your time in that has one of those forces in charge of it. So Bitcoin is the freedom force. You have to have critical thinking. You have to have self-discipline because self-discipline, is being able to hold your own keys and trust yourself that you know how to store your Bitcoin and make sure it's safe. But people are just used to thinking that, oh, I need someone to do it for me because I'm in that fear-based mindset and a bank needs to hold my money, but things aren't safe. So
And, I would say, don't just trust a hairdresser and a car salesman, right? Trust that we have something like when you go, for instance, the reason I know we're on the right path, right? Well, that we have to be is because the good path is the right path is because think about this. There's a room full of darkness. One candle goes in there, lights up the whole room, right? That's like one Bitcoiner walking into a room full of Democrats and Republicans and, bankers and all these things and COVID people. And we walk in and we're just like free and happy and wonderful, right? So forget where I was going with this, but
well, I think I want to touch on that before you finish with your thought, but that reminds me of I always like to reference this movie called Monkey Man, where he was like a fighter. He had to like struggle and fight his way. But the quote from that movie was one small ember can light up everything. And that's what it reminds me of.
yeah, so the darkness, the evil hides in the dark room, but you have one person with this free thinking, it can light up the whole room and darkness wants to hide, right? So that's why I know we're on the right path and we're doing the rightness, right? Also, it feels good because when you light another candle, right? Then that candle can go light up another room. Darkness will be fleeing so fast it doesn't know what to do. And that's what I think Bitcoin is like the best tool weapon we have, our armor to fight this negativity, this fear-based mindset, to help light. Because if we're 2% and there's 98% of other people that are drifters, there's a lot of candles out there that need to be lit, right? And all it takes is for us to light a couple candles. Well, they'll go out and light other people's candles. And then all of a sudden, all the lightness comes to light, which is the real true knowledge, infinite intelligence, and then that dark has to hide. And when a dark room is dark, you don't know what's right or what's wrong, And so Bitcoin just turns the lights on and lets everyone say, "Hey, look, this is what's right, this is what's wrong. What do you want to do? Do you want to go find that little dark area and live that way, or do you want to have your candle be lit and start lighting other people's candles?" So that's how I know we're doing the right things because when you have real knowledge and real good things, you want to light somebody's other candle, right? And if you have something negative and dark and evil, you're blowing out their candle basically, right?
Yeah.
And so that's
It's
the
like
point I wanted to cover.
It's like fire is energy and Bitcoin backs your time spent working by energy. So Bitcoin backs that, Bitcoin protects that.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is the void, the people that are falling into the pit and feeling hopeless. And it's like this darkness around them. So it's like you have hope and you have despair and you have light and dark and you have, so these are these forces. And yes, they're always going to exist. We won't have daylight constantly all the time. The earth is nature is like that. We have cycles. There's always going to be people that choose to drift or don't come out of it. Sadly, I don't think everybody can be awakened at once. Maybe one day, maybe this will show in the future and it'll change things.
It's very difficult because even for myself, who has a lot of free time, a lot of extra energy, Bitcoin for 12 years, all these things, it's still hard for me, right? To dodge the darkness and the
Yeah,
negative thoughts. But when you have Bitcoin and the knowledge, like Napoleon Hill, it's 99 times, 90% easier. It's just 100 times easier, right? And so that's why I like doing this because it's
yeah,
not only helping with Bitcoin, but it gives people that the change of the mindset that might help them hold on to Bitcoin longer, understand it longer, get more Bitcoin, go the extra mile out there for people and themselves, right? Take that mastery of themselves. Like for instance, I wouldn't say I'm drifting, but because I do work out and stuff. But just last night, on X, the Mexican magician is his name, and he always posts like how he's doing push-ups and stuff like that. And then so I was like, "What's the point system?" And he told me, and I was like, oh, "Okay, I only normally do 100, maybe a max 150 push-ups." He's like, "No, you gotta do 175." So last night I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I got to get a good night's sleep. Got the podcast in the morning. It's like it's late. And I go, but you know what? I feel like I'm part of this community. I have somebody else lighting my fire, my flame to say, you should do this. So then last night I did 175 push-ups and was like, and then after I felt good, even though I was tired and it was
Awesome.
late. And I was like, that little bit of inspiration and fire that that guy has
Mhm.
came on to me, and it had nothing to do with knowledge or Bitcoin. It was just doing push-ups, right? But it
I think
helped
yes,
little things.
it
Oh,
energizes you, it makes you stronger, but it's proof of work, you know? So it's like
mhm.
Bitcoin is a proof of work. So people that do this in the Bitcoin community show that, hey, I'm doing these push-ups because I care about my future. I want to be healthy as I get older. I want to enjoy my life because you have something to hope for and you put in proof of work to show that you're because you can't a strong body if you're not trying, you know what I mean? So it's showing your proof of work. I think that's kind of the but that's amazing that yeah, that you can fire up each other, you know, you can actually make a difference with friends that you meet through our community
And
online.
one more thing I want to point out, which is very the probability of this is pretty low, but it just happened. So I did the quick video, remember, just yesterday, and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna be in my Corvette," and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna be on your podcast. People should subscribe. If anyone's in Santa Cruz, I'll take you out my Corvette. We'll get some lunch, right?" Another guy reached out and said, "Hey, I'm in the Santa Cruz area," and I checked him out. He's legit. He's not a bot. He's got the blue check mark and stuff. And it turns out we have so much in common, right? My wife and his fiance are Mexican or from Mexico or whatever. He is scuba dive certified, right? And the funny part is he sent me a picture of where he went fishing just the other day and got some ling cod and halibut. I go scuba diving, spearfishing underwater. He was fishing, and I get these ling cod and halibut. So he sends me a picture, and I send him a picture back. Then he sends me a picture of him eating ceviche that night. I send him a picture. I'm eating ceviche that night. So we're like, we're going to go out and have a great lunch and we're going to do some live videos and post it on the Bitcoin Army so people
That's
can see that
amazing.
there's two people that are very similar, more similar than not, right? And it was funny. I sent him the meme where it's like, do we just become best friends? You know, the
Yeah.
stepbrothers. I was like, this is so funny. It's like it was one thing after another, and what brought us together? Bitcoin.
Yeah,
So
and
I
he's
think
in the
it'll be
army
interesting
too?
to see what he's.
Is he in the Bitcoin army too?
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to like say who he is right away,
Yeah.
but I'm
No,
sure
but
he'll
what I
jump on and
wanna
be like, "It's me," blah blah blah. But it was very
the
surreal.
cool thing is that you put it out there and before we had this community, you were thinking, okay, I wish I could meet somebody in real life that's like me and that's that understands Bitcoin so I can make some real life friends that get it. And now you're part of this community. You shared that yesterday and you found someone that lives near you that is so much like you. And I'm so happy about that. That's
Yeah,
really,
and he's
really
like, I
cool.
want to go learn how to spearfish underwater and scuba dive. And because when you get scuba certified, it's like you want to go to Hawaii or go somewhere like Puerto Rico and go scuba diving where it's warm and you can see underwater for hundreds of feet. Well, I'm in Monterey, right next to Santa Cruz, where sometimes it's 10, 15 feet visibility, or sometimes it's 50 feet, but it's always cold. It's always like, a little bit crazy, but it's also the most beautiful scenery underwater you'll ever see because we have the kelp for it. So you'll be
Yeah.
underwater and you see these big kelp things going way up and you're like flying through. I mean, it's just unbelievable. So he's like, I want to do that. I'm like, I can teach you how to do that,
That's
And
awesome.
so, and because I already have a huge community of friends and on Facebook for this diving, and join our community on that. It's
That's
just
awesome.
amazing and fun. And it was just, the probability of just not only the Bitcoin, but, our spouses or whatever. And then he has a young child, the similar age of mine. I'm like, all these things are
Wow.
just checking all the boxes. And it was
Yeah,
just so funny that I'm like, well, thanks for reaching out. Yeah, I got time. Let's meet up and
that's
do some
awesome.
live videos to show people what this community can literally how it brings people together. And
Right.
so that'll be fun.
Yes, I can't wait to see. That's so amazing. I can't wait to hear about it. That is like the coolest thing ever. So I am so excited about
Yeah, I
that. I'm
thought it
so
was
glad
pretty
you
cool.
did
He thought it
that.
was cool. We're both like, is this really happening? And so, well, and yeah, so the whole point is to meet up and to do as many little quick live videos of us talking,
Yeah.
getting to know. and see what we can do to let people know, like, hey, this is as real as it can get. Yeah.
And then more people can, like, get inspiration from that. They can find other people in their area maybe to make friends with and
Well,
get
I was
together.
thinking that it'd be awesome to throw like every 6 months or something like that, rent out like a place on the wharf. Because I've done it before. We rent out and then, you get unlimited drinks of wine and beer, and then you just tell all your friends and family to come. So I'll
Mm,
pitch it with him and say, hey, look, I'll even cover it the first time, whatever. Let's just try to have one. We have a Bitcoin party where we all just talk Bitcoin, have a freedom party, and then do the live feed and spread it out to everybody and say, look what we're doing here on this beautiful Santa peer, having a great time, all sponsored by Satoshi, you
yeah,
know? So I think that'd be a fun little experience
right.
that we can hopefully manifest or do something like that.
Yeah, I think for sure that'll be really, really nice. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, and thank you for joining me again today. And this is part 2 of 10. We're going to be doing at least 10 episodes, I think, at
Yeah.
least probably 10. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I can't wait till the next time.
Stacy, it's been a blessing. Thank you for my Bitcoin therapy and everybody on X and Bitcoin. Thank you for listening and share her out, subscribe, like, and we appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much. All right. Bye, Stacy.
Thank you. Have a great day. Take care.